Hi, I'm Bob Dixon and I'd like to thank you for spending a few minutes of your time visiting this website. I hope you'll find it useful. I imagine that since you're looking at therapy and coaching websites, then you want to change something in your life, either by resolving issues that have been troubling you maybe for some time, or by preparing yourself in some way to better face new challenges and opportunities. Most people, when they decide to make use of a counsellor or therapist, have been thinking about their difficulties for a while, sometimes for a long time. Usually they've exhausted themselves thinking, gone round in circles in their heads, thinking one thing at one moment and the exact opposite the next. Whilst they may have sometimes gotten temporary relief or respite from their thoughts and feelings, they often find themselves back in the same uncomfortable and difficult emotional place time after time. Life can be difficult for all of us sometimes, and talking through our thoughts, ideas and feelings at these times can be really useful, helping us to look at our circumstances in different and often more productive ways, so that we can make better decisions about what we want to do or better understand why we might be feeling as we are. It can really help you to understand why you respond to things that happen in the way that you do. Perhaps you've not been feeling as confident as you would like, or you've been battling with anger, guilt, anxiety, regret, or depression, for example. Such feelings can be very deep-seated, and you might have told yourself that that's just the way you are and there's little that can be done about it. If you have, then you might be surprised, because change can happen very quickly, and when it does, people often do not understand how or why it happens, but nor do they care. They just thrive on it. If you've not made use of a counsellor or therapist in the past, you might also be wondering what you might gain compared with, say, talking to a friend. Well, there are lots of differences, and I'll quickly mention just one or two of them. First is confidentiality. Therapists and counsellors are bound by codes of ethics, and anything you say to them is confidential, with very few exceptions. And I talk about what those exceptions are in another video on the website. Now, if you're lucky, you may have a close friend that you feel that you can trust absolutely. But even if you do, there'll likely come a time when you feel that you've burdened them with your feelings for long enough. And at that time, you'll probably decide to keep your thoughts and feelings to yourself. If you think about conversations that you've had with your friends in times of difficulty for them, then you'll probably realise that quite naturally what you want to do most is to help them. As they talk, part of you won't be listening to them, but will be thinking about your own experiences, looking to see if any are similar, so that you can tell them what you did in those circumstances. Understandably, as friends we want to help others, and we often do so by offering advice, but the problem is it's just not useful. What we need to do in times of trouble is find solutions that fit us, not recycle things that have worked for our friends. A counsellor will not tell you what to do, but will help you to find your own solutions in an active and dynamic way. This means that it probably won't just sit back and reflect back to you everything that you say, something that can be really frustrating. What they will do is help you to develop an increased awareness of the way you think and what you feel, and this is what will help you to think in new and more empowering ways. You might also be embarrassed about sharing the way you're feeling with a friend, about thoughts that you've had, or about things that you've done. You'll find that a good counsellor is completely accepting and uncritical of you. Our present society is always looking to lay fault or blame on someone, so you might find it difficult to believe that this is possible, but it is so. A good counsellor will know that most people do the best that they can under the circumstances that they perceive themselves to be in at that time, so they'll understand. A skilled counsellor will also know the right questions to ask. You know, many of the difficulties that people experience in the present are consequences of experiences that they've had in the past and decisions that they've made about themselves or about others based on those experiences. Let me give you an example. When I was young, I'm sure there was an occasion when I burnt myself poking around in the coal fire at home or playing with matches. And I quickly learned that burning hurts, and I've largely managed to avoid it since. Sounds sensible, and it is. I haven't had to think about what I learned, I just know it to be true. Now, When I was 13, I had an English teacher. His name was Mr. Shine. Mr. Shine was very loud, very large and very intimidating, and pupils used to sit in absolute silence in his lessons, writing the next essay while he brought them out to the front of the class one at a time to mark their work. On this occasion it was my turn. Whilst the rest of the class sat in silence, Mr. Shine asked me what gullible meant. Although I'd used it in my essay, I clearly didn't know exactly what it meant, otherwise he wouldn't have asked me the question. So I mumbled something, I can't really remember what it was. "It means easily taken in, boy," he said. "What does easily taken in mean, boy?" he asked. "It means gullible, sir," I replied. Mr. Shine exploded. "Don't you think you can make a fool of me, boy?" And he ranted and raved on and on for what seemed like a few minutes, but was probably only a few seconds. You may be able to imagine how I felt. Humiliated, ashamed, and probably close to tears in front of a class full of people, and more than a bit frightened. In a matter of seconds, Mr. Shine taught me something that stayed with me for years. He taught me that I couldn't write. For a while afterwards, I couldn't put a pen to paper without thinking about that incident. He taught me how easy it was to be publicly humiliated, so I learned to stay quiet and not to speak out. Like the fire, I didn't have to think about this, I just knew it to be true. I took the belief inside and just believed it. Of course, I'm much older now, and I know that Mr. Shine was an appallingly bad teacher who really shouldn't have been allowed to teach. But at the time I was only 13, and I didn't know then what I know now. Just as I learnt that burns hurt, so I learnt that essays do too. I instinctively stayed away from any writing and from speaking out in public. And I've no doubt that this has had an effect on how I felt about myself and what I was able to achieve. If you think about it, you realise that life is full of experiences like this. Many of us spend too much time ruminating on what's happened in the past and what might happen in the future. We do this because we have a need to understand. Understanding helps us to modify our behaviour in a way that keeps us safe and brings us more of what we want. Using a therapist or a counsellor can help you develop an awareness of issues like this and reprocess these experiences so that they no longer have the power to affect you as they have done so up until now. Now, this isn't the same thing as dwelling on them or as using them as excuses for not doing things or for not feeling good. It's more about changing your emotional response to these experiences so that they no longer hold any difficulties for you. Becoming aware of what you believe about yourself and changing those beliefs in a positive way is immensely empowering and really can radically change the way you feel about yourself and about your life. Now, in other videos on the website, I looked at many other issues in relation to counselling, coaching and hypnotherapy. So please look around. Meanwhile, thanks for watching.